Shoot it. Over the past couple of weeks, I've taken a couple trips to 2 new farms where I have permission to explore, hunt, fish, and shoot at any distance I want, really. The initial trips were short and just an opportunity to kind of get a lay of the land and meet the landowners. They are, however, the start of some amazing new series on this channel as I occasionally leave the backyard and venture out, providing my, let's call them free services to the great farmers and landowners of the good old USA. I've been filming like crazy, though, and I have a mountain of content to get to you guys. So I'm going to break this video up into 2 pieces, and I'll drop them back-to-back-ish, right? Give me a few days in between each, and that should be enough. Today's video is an intro to the farm series, a little showcase of the changes I made to the Leshiy 2s to accommodate those longer distance, and what I personally feel is some of the best long-range scope cam footage, smashing an iPad and a little bit of paper as I dialed in the setups I'll be using when I travel to these farms. So I've been fortunate enough to have some amazing scope companies support the channel over the years. US Optics, Delta, Dedal, ATN, and most recently, March Optics. So March has sent me 2 amazing scopes. The Shorty, the one that you're looking at here with the Eagle Vision mounted on the back, which is hands down the coolest LPVO on the market in my opinion, and relevant to air gunners because it parallaxes down to 10 feet, unlike basically every other LPVO out there, which is pretty much like 100 yards fixed. So in addition to that, March sent me the most insane scope I've ever looked through, called the Genesis 4-40X. Putting this on an air gun seems kind of silly, but hang with me here for a second, as it's really intended for F-class shooters and big budgets. When you're shooting 2 miles, you're at the extreme end of an optics capability. What March did was build an internal turret system that's inside of this housing that's actually one piece with the mount itself. So what it does is it gives the scope just an insane amount of MOA built directly into it. So there's 2 versions of the Genesis. I have the smaller one, which is about 290 something in MOA that's built in, and there's one above this that has over 400. What that translates to, though, is this scope being optically centered from 10 meters out to 3 miles, and obviously with the right caliber. So to showcase this, I'm going to use a short-barreled air gun, the Leshiy 2, shooting 100 to 200 yards and film through the scope so that you can get an idea of what it looks like and what it's capable of when going from the ballistics and velocity of a pellet or a slug and a 408 or whatever it is that you're using to reach out to 3 miles. So the comparison is actually pretty valid visually, right? It's just math, the difference between the 2, and I'm excluding the shooter's capability. We stayed late as the farmer told us next door they had a pretty bad coyote problem, but we forgot the Fox Pro, so we'll have to come back for that. But the landowner, when he gave us permission, also asked us to thin the muskrats out, who were kind of messing up the pond and the land around it. So I had ranged different sections of this pond earlier with a 30 cal ATN 4K from where we were sitting. Middle of the pond was about 140 yards, so I estimated this as a little over that, plus it was quartering away. I grew up shooting turtles and muskrats, so although it had been a while, this felt kind of oddly familiar. I made good use of the only shot that night that we got, and I dropped the 50 grain JSB onto the back of the neck, kind of head area, and it was lights out. When I return to this particular farm, I'm going to have a 450 millimeter barrel Leshiy 2 set up in 30 versus the 250 that I had here, knowing that 140 yards is probably the minimum yardage we're going to get. So I zeroed at 50 yards, and as you can see, I was maxed out on the holdover. So the extra length will also help bring that setup from, I think this was running about 60 foot-pounds to over 80 without pushing the gun too much either. So this should be perfect. The next morning, we came back to just clean up, make sure we didn't leave anything out, and rip the 44 a little bit more. And then it was on to the next farm the following weekend. So I'm going to come back to this farm specifically to hunt, and I'll do a full tour then. This is 200 acres of absolute hunting outdoorsman paradise. The place is incredible. But on this day, we had a real small window just to kind of get a tour of the place before we had to get home for some dad coaching duty for the kids' baseball games. But anyways, when we arrived at this farm, I pulled the 350 millimeter 25 cal out. I have this thing set up for my backyard, shooting polymags at about 8:15. And right before this, though, I had zeroed the gun with 34 grain JSB pellets. I zeroed it at 100 yards. But the wind was just pushing them all over the place, and it was shooting them at about 7:30 or so. So again, this thing is set up. I think it's only about 98 bar on the Reaper reg for my backyard. But I was just curious to see how that would do at longer distances. And so anyways, I pulled out the 32 grain AVS slugs, and I just wasn't sure how they were going to perform at these relatively slower speeds, and that slug was going about 750 here. So to say I was surprised was an understatement. So let's see how these things did. You'll notice I'm holding quite a bit for wind and a little for elevation, but what's actually going on here is that I kept the zero for the 34 grain pellet, as I wasn't thinking I was going to be shooting slugs on this given day out of this gun. So anyways, I shot a couple off camera to get the point of impact, and then just held there rather than change the zero. So the group was probably a little bit over an inch, not by much though, because of this one shot, but I wasn't actually shooting for groups, so I just wanted to see how well the slug flew in slow-mo. So this is about as stable as it gets. I was blown away. As soon as I saw the footage, I couldn't believe it. So a big benefit of slugs is their ability to buck the wind. Another is how much energy is retained downrange. So that's half-inch weathered, kind of plywood, so it's softened up a little bit. But even at slower speeds, the 750 feet per second at the muzzle, it's blowing holes through it, as you can see. Alright, so one of the things I forgot to film at the farm was this new product that Brian at EDgun Leshiy sent me called the EDgun Easy Fill. And this thing, I'm laughing because I can't believe something this small and little has such a huge impact on your day when you're out shooting with a PCP air gun like the Leshiy 2. So I want to show you something real quick. This tank is on. Obviously everything's tightened down, but the tank is on. Right, so we're always going to leave it on, and this little guy just pops in. I'm doing this kind of one-handed here. Pops in and press, quick fill. Watch that go. We're going to fill to about 250. Boom. And what you just heard, besides that airplane going over the top of me, thanks guys, is it auto bled. So no reason to bleed, no reason to turn this on and off. You literally just quick and easy pop it in, press, fill. Unbelievable how sick this thing is. So you can get them now. They're available. Brian's got a ton of them in stock over at EDgun Leshiy. All right, guys, back to the movie. All right, I say we smash this thing. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, spot on. Same spot.
We're going to end part 1 with that. But stay tuned for part 2, where I have some of the most insane footage I've ever recorded. Slow-mo, scope cam, and 4K clarity. See you guys soon. Thanks for watching the EDgun Leshiy channel. Want more backyard hunting videos? Grab your favorite beverage and get yourself caught up. There's hundreds just like the one you just watched. Here's a couple favorites to get you started.